Generally, I'll take all of the money that I make each month out in cash and I'll go to the strip club. I picked up the bill and it was like 15 or 20 grand and I was like, what the fuck?
Out of all the influencers, who do you want to box?
Shut the fuck up. You're not taking action because you have this weird idea in your mind that something is gonna happen and that's gonna be what spurs you into action.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we got Ben Bader. How we doing, man?
Amazing.
Amazing. Well, we're back in Miami. I've been here just filming with Jimmy earlier. If you guys haven't watched that yet, watch it after this one. But I wanted to have Ben on because he's been up and coming more so than ever on YouTube, Instagram, and I feel like he has a lot of cool, interesting perspectives. So, Ben, for people that don't know you, go ahead and do a quick intro of what you do and exactly who you are.
Yeah, so First, I'm 23. I run a marketing agency working with a lot of the biggest personal brands in the online marketing info product space. Basically, we partner up with them and we run the entire back end of their business and to help them make more money, help them scale. I've been doing that for about 2 years now. And I recently started coaching on my own, coaching people that want to run a similar business to mine or could potentially be a client, just people that have enjoyed my content but don't want to or aren't able to work with me like as a client for the agency. So I launched that literally a week ago, and that's been super cool as well.
Okay. So one of the main things I actually wanted to have written down is how did you manage to differentiate yourself from in my mind, the cringe growth operator label? Mm-hmm. How did you connect with these big guys? I know you work with some of your close friends, obviously.
Yeah.
Was that all just through networking, like friend to friend, or strictly referrals? How did that look like?
Yeah, so first, like on the growth operator side, like I started in the info space well before anybody had thrown that term around. Long story short, I was running a local lead gen SMMA. So it's like your typical find local businesses and run Facebook ads for them to help them get more leads and then use Go High Level to convert more of those leads. Like the Ty Lopez, Iman model.
I'm a high level affiliate, so I love that shit.
Yep. So I was doing that in the basketball training space. So local basketball trainer, I'd go to him and be like, yo, I can help you make more money. I started to get clients there, and that was like this was 4 years ago at this point, but that was my first real business. And I got to 15, 20K a month using that. And then I built like a little bit of a personal brand in the niche basketball training space. So I started to connect with a lot of the guys who were running like online basketball training. They had a big personal brand and they were running some kind of course or some info product. So I connected with them, and then that got me into info and I got results for them. And then I was like, okay, I could do this for anybody that sells info. And because when I started that business, I got on Twitter, I started building my personal brand, not from like a perspective, oh, I want to build my personal brand, but rather I just wanted to talk shit online. But because of that, I had an audience and a solid network, and I was able to just start working with people that I already knew who had info products. And that's how I like kind of inadvertently ended up as one of the go-to guys in the info space. It wasn't ever like a master plan. I never really had to do much outreach for that business in particular. I just kind of ended up in this situation. And because I was earlier to it than the growth operator name, that separated me from the beginning, and I can flex our case studies and results and all of that.
Okay. One of the biggest takeaways I've heard through that entire explanation was the personal branding side and just making yourself an authority figure and that type of go-to person for your talent and skill, which is growing and scaling a business. So, damn, I wasn't even planning on going on this early on in the episode of the podcast. How important do you think personal branding is for today, but also saying 3 to 5 years down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't want to build a personal brand, you're going to be at a disadvantage unless you're autistically intelligent. Like, you can get around it by just being smarter than everybody else and being a fucking wizard with paid ads and finding another way to get attention, or like really good at systems and cold email and getting clients that way. But it can only help you if you are trying to sell anything to anyone. Obviously, just being a known person on the internet makes you look credible, and it puts you at from my perspective, when I go to a potential client and they can go and look at my YouTube, and then they can look at my Instagram and my TikTok and my Twitter, and they see that I have my own audience and not just some random little kid who attended a webinar and bought a course, then it's like, okay, I'm different from all of the people who are in that category. So there's two sides to it though as well. Like, do I think everybody should have a personal brand? Probably not. Like, most people just aren't.
They're just retarded.
Yeah. But, you know, there's different styles. Like, you can be the email marketing guy. You can be the Facebook ads guy, and that's all you talk about. If you don't want to share your other takes and talk about, you know, like my personal brand is relatively broad. I talk about what I do, but it's not the core focus of my personal brand. If you don't have the desire to build a really large personal brand, you can be a go-to guy in a certain niche, and that can still serve you.
Yeah. I think that's very important too, is because I've actually gone, in my mind, the error of making a broad audience and creating a broad audience, and that's my fault because of the people I've had on from different industries, different niches, demographics, stuff like that. Because most of my foundation, besides investments and stuff, is from my lead flow and traffic.
Yep.
And if I'm going to drive that for a specific offer, well, shit, most of the people that follow me are not going to be qualified.
Right.
But I do believe that being broad is still good because it still gives you that credibility and sociability.
Totally. There's two sides to it as well. Like, the top of funnel content, like the more broad stuff, is going to cast a wider net.
Like this.
Exactly. You're not going to make a YouTube video about a very niche problem. Here's how to set up Facebook ads in 2024. That's not going to go viral, but that'll convert your existing audience into potential customers. The same way, making, like, think about Hamza. Hamza's a good example of this on YouTube. I wouldn't call myself a Hamza fan, but I think he's very interesting in a sense of, like, that fucker will make a video about how to stop jerking off.
It goes
like,
crazy.
And it does. Like, and it couldn't be any more broad. You're talking to the 18-year-old incel who's sitting in his mom's basement. Like, but that is the shit that, like, casts that wide net. And then maybe a year later, he makes a video, oh, here's how I'm making money using school, and that converts the incel in the mom's basement. So there's a game to it. I watched Brett,
Malowski.
Yeah, I watched his video recently. It was titled, like, how I made $96,000 from one YouTube video.
Yep.
And he talked about this concept. You've got your basically top of funnel content, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel content. I kind of live in that middle of funnel area because none of my stuff is like super granular, any type of tutorials, but I talk enough about what I do to where it's still a bit more niche.
I think that middle of funnel, living in that space, is the most high leverage and impactful thing you can do. Because all the top of funnel make money online guys, fucking Iman, you have you're gonna get swamped by all the guys that had the ad spend that are gonna just kill you.
Yeah.
But if you're too specific, you're not gonna tap into the larger audience.
Exactly. You need those top of funnel guys though. Like,
For sure.
You know, the people that introduce growth operating are the reason, like, their stuff
Eddie.
was top of funnel. Yeah, like Eddie's the fucking homie. He's my boy. But because, like, he was able to go mass market with it and introduce it as a new thing, you know, then somebody ends up in this space because of his content, and then they end up finding me, and then maybe they become a customer of mine. So there's a balance to it for sure.
I think that one of my guys I actually spent for a coaching program myself, and I still believe that wherever you're at in your life, you should be having at least some mentor helping you get to the next level. My mentor was telling me that focusing on the middle of funnel content and speaking directly towards the middle of funnel prospect in ads is what's going to be the most profitable, essentially, because you're going to tap into part of the broad, which is top, but also part of the bottom, which is like they already know, they're aware of a pain point, they're aware there's a solution, but they don't know what it is and how to implement it. But if you can frame it in a way, and through copywriting, funny enough, frame it and convey it in a way where it's a clear yes to either book a call or follow your account or whatever the call to action may be, that is where you're going to get the most conversion, whether it's going to be in the first day or, like you said, it could be converting down the road. I think that's the most powerful thing you can do.
Totally. And then also, I mean, think about, like, there are guys with 1,000 subscribers or 3,000 subscribers on YouTube that are making 50, 100, probably $200,000 a month just because they're so niche, just because it's like bottom of funnel and then sometimes they'll go into the middle of funnel, versus somebody like Sneeko. I don't know if you can say his name on YouTube, but he's a homie of mine, but his content was all entertainment. Yeah. So it's a really wide net, but can he sell you how to make money online, how to make 10K a month online? No. So that's why, you know, he ends up in a position where he has a Rumble deal versus like him being able to monetize it just by selling info. That said, to be fair though, if he were to go and then start making, you know, he's got the wide net. If he started making middle funnel content after that, that's where he could have converted people.
Like Hamza.
Yeah.
I think he's done that pretty well, even though he's kind of, his views have fallen off, but his money's fucking gone up.
Right. And he probably learned how to stop jerking off too. Cool.
How long have you watched his videos? I'm just curious.
I didn't. So like probably when I started on YouTube, it was about 3 months ago. And I was just curious to go look at his content. And I watched a few of his videos. And the first 2 or 3 videos I watched, I was like, this guy's like dope. Like he's really articulate, and I fucked with the content. And then I watched a video where he was basically just complaining about Western women. Yeah. And I was like, okay, never mind. But to be fair, he's a good speaker and he's built a incredibly large audience.
Yeah. He's studied how to build a cult-like audience, and he's got it down to a T.
Yep.
So let's jump into your YouTube stuff now. Because like you said, you started 3 months ago. I believe fucking hit it off the bat. Like nothing insanely viral, right? Because you're not going for that viral type of video. You're talking to people that are in a position maybe 1, 2, or 3 steps behind you, providing that insight to them. And I think it's very, very valuable. So what made you want to start, one, posting content, but also being consistent with it?
Yeah, so I've wanted to start a YouTube channel since I was 17. But I also understood that I need stuff to talk about. Yeah. Like if you haven't done anything and you're a 17-year-old talking shit online, then nobody's gonna watch it. So I started on TikTok maybe 2 years ago. I started posting on Twitter, like I said, probably 4 years ago. And then again, I felt YouTube was something that like I knew eventually I wanted to tackle it and get consistent on there. And it wasn't until around 3 months ago, I was recording a course for Copy MBA for Mason's program. And I felt myself just like rambling on a video, and I was like, this is fucking good. And then that's what gave me the idea again, because it was lingering in the back of my mind, like eventually I'm gonna start on YouTube, but I hadn't taken action on it yet. And then I was making those course modules, and I was like, wait, this is the same fucking thing. I can set up the camera and post this on YouTube. So that's what really got me over the hump. But again, that was something I wanted to do for a while, and it was something that I was putting off. So I made a list one day of like, I called it my kind of want list. So all of the things that I wanted, but I didn't really want. I didn't want enough to like actually take action on it yet. And YouTube was on there. A few other things was like boxing and I don't know, being more social at the time. Like this was a bit ago. But YouTube was one of those on there. And, you know, I felt like the reason I made that list was because, you know, there's things that you're just gonna do that no matter what, you feel like you can't not do it. Yeah. Starting a business was inevitable for me. I couldn't not do that. Content is something that I've always enjoyed, but I have to consciously make the effort to get the ball rolling on a certain platform. And then once I do, I got it. Mm-hmm. But as far as the consistency aspect, part of it is like getting the feedback. Because there's no more dopamine that you can get from like posting a video and seeing the effects of it. Like that's fucking sick. And then also, I genuinely think that making content for most of us will be the most impactful thing that we ever do. Because you can touch more people, pause, no homo. You can touch more people through mediums like this than you ever could previously. And that's fucking sick. Mm-hmm. Like, without getting into too much detail, I had somebody reply to the email that I sent the other day telling me that they were diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer 6 months prior. Wow. And how my content, my friend Mason's content, has helped inspire them and keep them in good spirits. And like even right now, it gives me chills just thinking about it. Like that is fucking sick. So there's like 2 benefits to it. 1, you can do stuff like that. 2, you can make a fuck ton of money from it. So that's sick.
Both. Let's do both.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. The impact of, I call it 1 to unlimited, because we can have a whole either classroom of people watching or an entire football stadium watching.
Yep.
Whatever it may be, it's more than one-on-one action. I think that's the most important thing when you're trying to get a message across and not even just trying to make money online, as you said. So you touch on a point there through that entire explanation of what you're doing and stuff, and through YouTube, is that now you are now well over 6 figures a month, right? So what does your day-to-day look like in terms of that business owner and that agency owner? Are you always behind your laptop? What does it look like?
I've had times where I'm just fucking working all the time. Up until recently, like, you know, I've had times where I wake up and I'm like pretty rigid with my routine.
There's seasons of that.
Yeah. And to get to 100K a month in the agency, that's how it was. And then honestly, like once I got to that level and I was sustaining that level for a bit, I wasn't working that much. Like I built a team and I wasn't super involved in the day-to-day of the agency. I didn't have to be at my desk all the time. And like, that's when I kind of went and did other things that I wanted to do. Like when I moved to Miami, I would envision my lifestyle like being a certain way, like really fast paced and going out all the time and like meeting a bunch of cool new people and dating and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, being in a building phase, I wasn't living that. But then I reached the number financially that I wanted to hit, but I was still just like living the same way I was living when I was making 20K a month. So then I kind of had this like realization where money just felt like a number on a screen. Yeah. So then that's when I kind of took my foot off the gas on continuing to scale the agency and just went and lived for a little bit and dove more into content. And like, I think that's all life is. It's seasons of pursuits.
For sure.
Those pursuits can be different. Sometimes it is going to be financially and it will pay you. But, you know, the last 3 months, my biggest focus was YouTube. And I made $0 from YouTube up until I started to launch coaching, which was a week ago. So like, or maybe $500 from YouTube AdSense.
Whatever it is.
Which is going to buy a pack of gum. You know? Like,
the fucking Bidenomics right now. No, I think it's very important too. It's just the seasons and understanding that, right? Maybe you right now watching are going through a period of just pain and pushing, and you feel like you're just fucking climbing a hill that's so difficult to climb. But you know, and be aware that it's not always going to be like that. If you don't quit, it's not forever going to be that painful. And that's something that even like I've gone through too, and I'm sure you have as well. Like going back to the seasons aspect, there's certain pieces of your life where you focus for a while, finances for a while.
Yep.
And then you mentioned before you wanted to be more social. That was the same thing for me, bro. I went and fucking cold approached random ass girls in fucking the grocery store when I was 20 years old because
that's awesome.
I had money, but I didn't have the fucking social skills.
Yep.
And I felt awkward, just transparently.
Yo, side note, because you said cold approach, anybody ever tell you that you remind them of Jack Denmo? Do you know Jack Denmo? YouTube?
Yes.
Big YouTube channel.
Yes.
Yeah, you've gotten that before?
I don't know. I've never gotten that, but I know who he is.
Your voice is similar, and you guys have a similar facial structure.
That's fair. He's a big YouTuber. He does like a lot of like social skills stuff, right?
Yeah, he crushes.
Yeah, but that was me back then, and it was the season of finance, researching big crypto projects. So that's how I had my big breakthrough in 2021 and 2020. But then I was lacking a big part of my life where I wasn't able to share the wealth, wasn't able to be surrounded by people I wanted to be surrounded by.
Yep.
And that's why now I focus so much on fucking relationships with people.
Totally. Again, it actualizes everything. Yeah. And then on the finances side, like you said, you know, sometimes you just feel like you're putting in all this effort and you're not getting much out of it. You're climbing a hill and you can't even see the top of the hill. Yeah. I think eventually the universe rewards unrewarded effort. Like if you...
I saw a tweet you put out about this.
Yeah, the same kind of thing. If you just keep taking more and more shots and getting more and more reps and you get nothing from that, eventually it hits and it pays back all of the unrewarded effort. Like all of those reps that you put in, that you all the cold calls you made, or all of the pieces of content that you made that you got nothing out of, it didn't go viral, you didn't get a sale. You know, eventually you get one deal or you make one piece of content that goes viral and it makes up for everything else.
You seem like a philosophical type of person. Have you always been that way?
I've always thought a lot and been introspective and wanted to understand what is driving me, what's stopping me. Like, I remember there's a Jason Capital quote, I think, that's the more personal, the more universal. Okay. So sometimes I'll make content or I'll write a tweet and somebody will comment, it feels like you're talking directly to me. Like, it feels like you made this piece of content. Like, this is exactly what I am facing right now. And it feels like you're in my brain. Mm-hmm. And I think because I'm really introspective and I think about the way objectively how I view things, and when I'm not doing what I should be, I can understand why I'm not doing that. That makes my content resonate really deep with a certain percentage of the people that see it. And those are the people that end up being like, yo, this was literally my exact situation.
Genuinely, I think I've watched. One of the first times or first message I sent to you is, yeah, your content is dope. I've watched a handful of videos, and they, even for myself too, I'm like, damn, good insights. It's just raw, you talking to the camera. I feel like that's pretty hard for someone to pull off nowadays. Mm-hmm. And just, I guess the reason for it is that connection and that transparency of being able to relate with the viewer so clearly.
Yeah, and writing. Writing has been, that's the reason that I can get on camera and talk for 20 minutes and have semi-complete ideas, is because I've written that before. Like, not exactly, not word for word, but whether it was journaling or to my email list, I have worked out the problem in my head so it's more concrete. And then when I speak, I'm able to articulate it fully rather than just like having a jumbled kind of mess of thoughts. I once upon a time probably got it down on paper.
Okay, so let's jump into that aspect then, because that's a big piece and foundational skill to how you got where you are right now, which is writing, right? So I know your background, you touched on it briefly, was doing the agency stuff for the basketball stuff, because you were big into basketball when you were younger. So at what point did you realize, okay, I need to get this skill down to have a breakthrough in my life? And how did you also come to the conclusion that that was a skill that was going to unlock a lot of things in your life?
Yeah, I never consciously was like, oh, I need to become a really good writer. I just always enjoyed it and started to hone that craft in a way where it didn't feel like I was practicing. Writing on Twitter for years didn't feel like practice. I was just talking shit and saying what came to mind. Writing to my email list, like, I started writing to my email list 4 years ago when I had very little to talk, maybe 3 years ago. I had nothing to talk about. And I wasn't selling anything.
How are you getting an email list then?
Say that again?
How are you getting an email list then? Like, people subscribing?
Twitter. I probably had a couple hundred people on there, or 100 people even. But yeah, so I started doing it because I wanted to, and I started journaling almost every night. From when I dropped out of college in 2021, I moved to Tulum, Mexico for a month. And I remember, like, I made it a point to every night before bed, I would journal and I would write basically to my future self, like updating my future self on what's going on in my life. And that gave me reps. Again, I wasn't consciously trying to become a better writer, become a better copywriter, but that just helped me be able to articulate my thoughts and ideas in a clear and concise manner. And that's what ended up making me a lot of money as well.
Okay, so that's so interesting. So many people focus so long on trying to acquire like one skill set, and some of them don't even have that fucking breakthrough, right? So it's to the point where you just enjoyed it, essentially, and you're like, I like writing, I'm pretty good at it, so why not start to monetize it? That's what it sounds like, at least?
Yeah, pretty much. And like, I've consciously learned skills. I consciously had to go and watch sales videos and learn about how a sales call works, or Facebook ads, or different parts of building a funnel. But that foundational skill, copywriting, the ability to persuade someone into taking an action, that just ended up coming by the default of the repetitions that I was getting.
So now at this point in time, you had the skill of copywriting better than average people. You had the relationships with some people to connect with and work with. So walk me through exactly how you landed your first kind of growth operating client, and then how did that snowball from there?
So the first one was a guy in the basketball training space named Gannon Baker, who had a solid audience, and I started working with him, like running everything on the back end. I think I was charging him a couple grand a month. So I wasn't making much money with him, but like I was doing a lot. And that was like my training camp. That's what got me into the info product space and starting to understand how this business works. Then I started working with a guy named DJ Sackman, also a basketball trainer. Same scenario. Wasn't making a ton of money with him, but just learning a lot. And then I started working with a couple of the other online basketball trainers doing the same thing. And then that's when I came to the realization that like I am being a retard by putting all of this energy into a niche that is basketball. Like, but I had the Twitter personal brand. So I just started reaching out to some of the friends that I had that I knew were selling info, and I'd present them with an idea. Yo, I think I could improve your emails or build you a new funnel. And my first win in info came with Luke with Closer Cartel. Okay. And we scaled, like we helped him there. But then my first big win and like what got me to 100K a month was working with Mason.
I was gonna think that.
So like we scaled the fuck out of the webinars with that, and like that was so fun. That was a good time.
Now, okay, was that like last year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I remember I wasn't even talking to him personally about it because we filmed back in March a few months ago, and there's a few things we wanted to cut out because we were just talking about the back end business model and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is totally fair, but I see so many people ripping the same webinar funnel now.
Yeah.
With the same kind of copy, same setup, same layout. I'm like, this looks like Mason's funnel.
Hey, well, Mason's funnel looks like Will Rivera's funnel, and Will Rivera's funnel looks like Jason Fladlian's funnel, and Jason Fladlian's funnel looks like Russell Brunson's funnel.
They just convert.
It's just like, it just passed down. Yeah. So it's fine. You know, people, that's how this game works. You know, you find the system that's working, and then everybody hops on that system, and then eventually it's ran through. Okay. And then everybody starts doing something else, and then everybody hops to the new wave. And then because everybody's doing something else, the old thing starts working again. Like webinars were a big thing maybe 5-10 years ago.
They've always been big, yeah.
And then I think they died for a little bit, and then people started running them again. It died in a sense of like not everybody was doing it. Now everybody is.
More VSL type.
Mm-hmm. Same with like different types of funnels, like low ticket and even the high ticket model is a relatively new concept. The fact that you can sell somebody a $5,000 coaching program is like relatively new. And I think in Ty Lopez's day, he was fucking slinging $47 courses, and that's how he made a fuck ton of money.
Just sheer volume.
Yeah. So that's how this space works, bro. It's just like everybody hops on trends until they don't work, and eventually, you know, you might hop on a trend at the right time with the right offer. Think about Jimmy right now. Like that's a perfect fucking offer. It's easy. Like TikTok is super hot. You put, oh, here's how you can make money on TikTok. A normie's gonna be like, oh, I want to make money on TikTok, but then they actually make money. It's fucking crazy. Like. If I were a kid who had been trying to make money in sales or even in copywriting for like multiple years before now, and then I saw some little blonde girl making $100,000 a month making TikToks about some stupid supplement that doesn't work, I'd be so pissed off. I'd be fucking pissed. I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me, bro?
It's insane. It's insane. We're talking about some of the students and their testimonials, and I was like, it makes no sense.
It's legit. But Jimmy's in a great opportunity vehicle, and the shit actually works, and it makes sense to the common normie. Iman's another example of it. Like, you and I can't watch his content and take anything of value from it. Am I hating on him at all? No. But it's perfect for the kid who's trying to get into online business, who needs everything explained in a very simple way, step by step, and you need to kind of fear-monger them a little bit into actually taking action. Like I get that. That's the game. I never want to build my own personal brand that way, but if you're gonna have the scale that he does and have the big personal brand the way he does, you kind of have to an extent. Again, I think I have room to grow in like being able to dumb it down a bit more.
Relating back to middle of funnel content and stuff like this, right? So Twitter is a very, very lucrative platform for yourself, reaching a lot of people every single day, putting out your thoughts essentially.
Yep.
A concept that I hear many successful young guys talk about, and even older guys too, is no one's coming to save you as a young guy or even as a guy in general. So Have you come to this realization? If so, when was it? And how are you kind of coping with it?
Yeah, good question. So you kind of have to. Eventually, you're waiting for like that tap on your shoulder or the stars to align, and you're looking for the mentor that fucking carries you to the promised land. You're like waiting for that to just fall into your lap. And you're probably watching different videos on YouTube and you're consuming all this information, but like you're not taking action because you have this weird idea in your mind that like someone or something is going to happen and that's going to be what spurs you into action. And once you realize that that's not how it works, and like you have to have the discipline to actually make a change in your life. To be fair though, sometimes you can hit rock bottom and that can be what saves you. It's not the somebody that came to save you. It's like a situation that happens in your life that fucking shakes you and wakes you back up. And you're like, holy shit, like I actually have to go take action. And so I see this with people that grew up in poverty. Like they just have that drive. Some of them, obviously, some of them have that drive where it's like, I have to fucking make it because if I don't, my family will be poor forever. And it's just going to be an absolutely horrible life. Yeah. If you don't have that, if your circumstances don't force you into that, I think you almost will subconsciously sabotage yourself to make you reach that point where you have no other option but to act.
You know what's funny about that too is that I was talking to somebody about this, and I experienced something similar where I started to sabotage myself. And maybe you have too. I'm curious to jump into it. Where you make your first big bag, you're feeling like, all right, I got some fucking comfort room to go fuck off and do some shit. And then you start to kind of pull yourself back down by stopping what you were doing to get you there in the first place. Yep. Have you experienced that yourself or no?
Totally. Multiple times. And most recently, like with my current agency, like I was coasting around 80 to 120K a month and I wasn't really trying to grow it. And like, slowly a client will leave or like results will start to dip and then you start to feel it a bit more. And my lifestyle is fucking expensive. So like you start to see, generally, you end the month with another 50K in your bank account. Then it's down to like 30 or even 10. And then you're like, wait.
I can't even buy a new Prezi right now.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. Like I can barely buy a fucking pack of gum. I might as well be homeless. So I felt that exact feeling where things were a bit too good and I knew that I needed to shake myself back into action. And part of that was like starting on YouTube. And some people don't need that though. It's interesting. I have a friend, Miles, Flips for Miles. He's an Amazon guy.
Yes.
That motherfucker is the most consistent human being I have ever met in my entire life. He never, he just keeps going. He just does exactly what he needs to do. And maybe it's because he's like a little autistic in the best way possible. I love you, Miles, if you're watching this. But for me, I have to feel something to want to fucking continue to go upwards in that trajectory.
It's really pain too.
Sometimes you have to let yourself fall so you can prove to yourself that you can climb back up.
I'm glad that you validated that too. Am I coping right now on a podcast? Maybe a little bit. I have in the past.
I mean, like, logically, is it an intelligent thing to do? Fuck no. Should you capitalize on the momentum when you have it? Totally. And will that make you grow monetarily faster? Yes. But maybe some people are just wired in a way where, like, you have to learn a lesson multiple times for it to be cemented into your head. And at the end of the day, you understand yourself better than anybody else does, even if it's subconscious, even if you know the right actions to take and you're not taking them because of some weird mental block. Maybe that's the block. That like you need to let yourself fall to be able to catch yourself. There's two sides to it though. I think you can get comfortable in a certain identity and a certain role that you've taken, and then you can just let yourself fall to climb the same ladder over and over. Like,
for sure.
You can say you get to 100K a month and then you let it fall down because you're kind of coasting, and then you get back up and then you just go down. That's not fun. That's not progress. You're just beating the same game over and over. Yeah. Eventually you have to step into a new identity that will align with the new version of you who is capable of making more money or capable of having different habits or being more social or whatever those things are, it's the belief system that you have and your entire self-image. Like that's what makes up your reality, is the way that you think about yourself. And to continue to progress, you have to evolve that self-image.
I actually recorded an Instagram story about this the other week or last week, and I was like, your reality is seen through your own self-image, and your own reality is going to be dictated by your beliefs, limiting beliefs, habits, everything, honestly. So for now, like I said, we said it earlier in the podcast, you're coasting around 6 figures a month profit. So when was this, and what were some of the most kind of mental breakthroughs you had of limiting beliefs to even get there in the first place? Because most people don't hit that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, first, to get there, it's tough because to get to 100K a month, there's a handful of different factors. First, like, you need to become valuable. You need to actually have a skill set. And to be able to build that skill set and not sabotage yourself, you need to identify the beliefs that you have about yourself that don't serve you. So I think the process of beginning to make money is also the process of removing the things, removing the beliefs that aren't going to help you continue on that trajectory. So for me, it was, I guess, as I started to make money and I started to work on myself, those two things went hand in hand. And then eventually I just ended up in the right position with the right skill set, with the right network, and I was able to capitalize on it. And that's what got me to low 6 figures a month.
That's a similar story that everybody else I hear goes through, is they start to get better at a skill set. They know something, they know some people, and then all of a sudden, seemingly like randomly, it kind of comes together to be a grand finale type of result. Mm-hmm. So
100%.
It's more and more common. I keep hearing that. I wanted to ask you too, in terms of, if you don't want to talk about this, totally cool. In terms of plays and investments you're doing, I know you got fucking nice bling on. Are you doing any plays with your fucking income every month? Are you just stacking cash, looking for an investment property? You're playing in crypto?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
So generally, I'll take all of the money that I make each month out in cash, and I'll go to the strip club. And
that's good.
Basically, so I mean, like, I save a lot of money. Have I put the time into investing that I should? No. And is that not good? Yes. Am I not stacking cash? No. And like, am I doing fine? Yes. But could I accelerate that growth by investing? Is that something that I should definitely eventually dive into? Probably yesterday. Probably.
Okay.
So to be very frank with you.
No pun intended. Okay, totally cool. That's why I like hearing that perspective, because some guys are all about it. Like, they fucking making good money. Not even 6 figures a month. They're doing like 50, 60, 70.
Yeah.
And they're putting like 30 a month into a medium high risk play.
And that's sick. That's really intelligent. But I haven't done that. I don't know. It's like a whole nother world that I would have to dive into. Okay. Or like, even if it's hiring somebody to manage my finances, little things like that have always been very difficult for me to do. Like little things around the house, or taking out your laundry, or like setting up my new apartment, like all of that shit. I'm just like, I don't want to fucking deal with that, bro.
It's funny you bucket that in with all the other menial bullshit. It's like, dude, this can fucking make you so much more money.
Totally.
What do you think the limit, or what do you think the resistance is to it? Unawareness or lack of knowledge?
Probably discipline first and foremost. You just build the habit. Like, honestly, if I dove into putting my money somewhere in particular every month, and I like started to enjoy it and learn about that process, I'd probably like it. Mm-hmm. and start to do it very consistently. I also probably have this belief in the back of my mind that's like, who cares about investing until I'm able to invest $500,000 a month? Like,
most people will never even able to have that belief.
Again, this is not financial advice whatsoever. If you follow this advice, you will probably be poor. I think part of it is this delusional self-belief that eventually I'll be able to invest multiple 6 figures a month, or I'll have a multi 8-figure exit. And is that going to happen? Maybe, maybe not. But is that back in the back of my mind? Yes. So like, is that flawed? Also, potentially. But I think at the end of the day, everybody puts so much pressure on you to like follow a certain path. And they'll be like, oh, if you're making X amount, you need to invest this amount. Like, fuck Dave Ramsey. You know, like that guy. Like, shut the fuck up. But people listen to him, right? And it's like, oh, I have to follow these rules. If I'm making $10,000 a month, I can only live on $4,000 a month. Like, I think a lot of those rules are just arbitrary, and
I'm on the same page with you with that.
yeah, I mean, they're set up to you following those rules just limits you, and it's not just financially. It's like your entire perception of what it's like to make the amount of money you're making or live the life that you're living. So if you think the guy who is making $100,000 a month has to live a certain way, you will live that way. And sometimes you won't stop to audit if that's actually what you want. So maybe you end up with $100 million and you're fucking miserable because you forgot to think about what you wanted, and you don't have any good relationships in your life, and you don't have any hobbies, and you can't tell any stories. You're not an interesting person. So I have always abided by this strict self-reliance, and I always try to audit the rules that I'm following and make sure that they're aligning with the reality that I want to live.
I haven't even thought of that to the point where people will work so hard and achieve such a monumental level. Is this something that they actually want?
Right.
Do they actually have the experiences they want?
Right.
And that's oftentimes no. And that's why we talked about before filming too, is like, I mean, Jimmy was like, bro, you should raise your limits to get to 50 million. That should be your goal. Mm-hmm. I said 20. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I'll call it quits at 50. I was like, I said 20. But we just have different things we want.
Totally. And think about somebody like Hormozi. Like, crazy. You know, he is one in multiple millions who like actually wants to be a billionaire and spend most of his waking hours working. And people follow his advice like, oh, you just need to be in your office grinding. And, you know, he doesn't like push that onto people, but he says objectively, this is how I think about it and this is how I want to live, and that's totally fine. But most people don't understand that he's an anomaly.
Correct. And that's the thing too, is understanding and having the awareness that people like him, I would also couple in Iman, even a new one, Charlie Morgan. I personally believe that those guys, maybe not Charlie Morgan as much, or maybe, I don't even know, honestly. Don't take this as advice. This is my opinion. I believe that those guys have gotten to a point so far where they're able to have a team that 1 out of a million people are able to create.
Totally.
With the offer, the audience, and even Luke Belmar, the sheer volume. He's putting out a short, his team's putting out a short every like 3 or 5 seconds. New short.
That's fucking insane.
He wants to get to 1 every second.
Wow.
So if you're able to invest and get to that point, great, all power to you. But understanding that kind of level is anomaly level is very important to setting realistic goals for yourself.
Totally.
So somebody like him, like Luke for this example, has unlimited resources to invest in a team, has unlimited talent to tap into because of his reach. Do you have that? Do you have those resources? Probably not, because we still don't either.
Right.
So being aware of that will help you as well, just as I already mentioned, live in reality more, but also still have that touch of delusion. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Jimmy about this too. I want to get your opinion on this, is when you are going through a rough patch in your life, and I'm sure you have at some point because we all have, you have to have a touch of delusion to say, hey, I am not going to lose unless I quit. Mm-hmm. And I see myself being that person that has those habits, has those beliefs, and I'm going to step into being that person by actively taking those actions and actively, kind of taking on those beliefs that person has. So Has there been a time where your back has been up against the wall and where you've had to really double down on your self-belief?
Yeah. I mean, everything once sounded crazy. The fact that we're talking on camera right now into a microphone that could go to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people on social media was once an absolutely delusional, insane idea. So I think that's the foundation of building anything. Understanding that any desire that you have is possible, but people are going to think you're crazy because that's not who you are presently. So the delusional aspect started for me when I was growing up playing basketball, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the fucking league. Like, I was just so set that I could go to the league, and like, it wasn't until my junior year of high school, that I realized I couldn't do that. That just wasn't gonna be a reality for me. But up until then, you know, I worked as if that was gonna happen, and that instilled that confidence in me that's totally necessary to build a business or do any admirable thing in any domain. So when I had dropped out of college, it was 2021, I was in Mexico, and I was running the basketball trainer SMMA. It was rocky. Like, I'd have some months where I'd make 10 to 15K. I'd have some months where I'd make 3K. And I remember...
That big of a swing.
Yeah.
Shit.
And I remember the month prior, I think it might have been September of 2021. I might be botching the dates, but it was a rough month. I think I made like $4 or $5 grand. So it's like enough, but it wasn't a lot of money. And then I was just grinding, bro. And I was selling this offer, and I remember I had somebody that wanted a refund, and like I had a strict no refund policy, and it was like only a few grand, but at the time I was like, that was a good amount of money to me. And I was sitting in my bed like contemplating what to do. I gave him the refund, and that made me feel really free. That started to break my attachment to money, because it was like the delusional belief that I'm going to actively make this situation worse and still be okay. That's what freedom feels like, is knowing that you could lose it all and build it all back tomorrow.
That's a good lesson for anybody watching this too, is just everyone lives in the save scarcity mindset, right? Because now, I mean, I don't blame you either, honestly, if you live that way at first glance, because things are way more outrageous than they used to be. The cost of living is way higher, so you kind of want to accumulate and hold on to every penny you can. But when you can kind of pivot that mindset and say, hey, fuck it, I'll spend $1,600 on this Airbnb.
Yeah,
I'll do whatever for your example here. And kind of being like, yeah, it'll make itself back one way or another, whether it's today or in 2 months.
Yep.
It'll make itself back. And kind of detaching yourself from the dollar is very, very perspective shifting.
Right. It's not good financial advice, but I remember...
We're not financial advisors.
Definitely not. When right around the time I started hitting 6-figure months, one night Mason and I went to the club, and I picked up the bill, and it was like 15 or 20 grand. And I was like, what the fuck, bro? Like, that hurt. That hurt. But it changes the perspective that you have around that amount of money. If you view 15, 20 grand as a lot of money versus something that like, oh, okay, I spent this much money, but I could go close a fucking deal tomorrow that'll pay me 10 times that, chilling. So do you need to have a balance? Should you spend all of your money? Definitely not. But sometimes can spending money on your lifestyle or things that others might deem as meaningless give you some internal drive that helps you shift into the new version of yourself that you need to become? Definitely. Now, this has been a great episode so far. I want to ask you one of the final questions here. Is more of a fun question. I know you've been boxing. I've seen some clips funny on like Twitter and stuff. Rob reposting some of your clips. Out of all the influencers, who do you want to box? That's a good question. Okay, so are we talking like something that I think I could win as well? Like,
yeah, why not?
Okay.
You beat up Sneeko.
Sneeko would be fun. He's a lot taller than me, so he's definitely got reach on me. But that would be a good time. I'd love to hop in the ring with Mason.
Really?
Only because I think that'd be fucking hilarious. Like me and Mason, like we'd sell a fuck ton of tickets. It'd be your copywriters' favorite copywriters going at it. Just yeah, that'd be a good time.
How tall are you?
5'10".
Bro, you got like fucking...
Yeah, no, like I'm setting myself up for an advantage here.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Sneeko would just be fun, but Mason would be the fucking box seller.
Yeah, Mace, if you're watching this, let's do it.
Dope. Okay, now last question before we wrap it up here. What is your end goal in all of this in terms of posting content, scaling other companies? What is your end goal with this?
To fully conquer the innate desire that I have, in a sense of like, I feel like this is a hill that I've had to climb. I've always been drawn to content and building businesses, and this is something that I've always wanted to do, and it's a pursuit that has really served me both financially and in my personal life. I feel like I've had to become a better version of myself to be able to do so. Do I know exactly what it'll look like long term? Am I like, oh, once I make 100 million, I'm out, or once I have this big of an audience, like that's the goal? No. I think having goals like that can help you. It can help give you direction on where you want to go. But like, I'm relatively clear on the actions that I need to take to, be financially irresponsible. Like, I think that's real freedom, is when you're able to be financially responsible and it not to matter.
Very true.
Yeah, like you can go waste multiple thousands of dollars a month in fuel for your yacht. That's freedom. So I think as long as I continue to follow this drive that has brought me here, it'll continue to lead me. So that's like big picture, and it's not crystal clear.
Okay.
But I think as long as I keep following it, I'll be good.
Okay. I started asking that more recently at the end of my episodes with my guests or whoever's on, because I think that a lot of people have similar end goals. They want to be fucking loaded. They want to have that freedom. They want to have that abundance. Now, trick question. Last question now. Mm-hmm. For somebody watching right now, perhaps maybe they are a complete beginner, but let's just say to the viewer right now that has seen some success online. Nothing crazy, maybe 3 to 5, 6K a month they've seen online. So they know it's possible. They don't have that initial limiting beliefs. What would you tell them, or what advice would you give them to have that breakthrough to be 10K a month and then be multiple 5 figures a month? In any offer. For you, maybe perhaps it is the scaling of online businesses. Maybe it's copywriting gigs, whatever it may be.
From a broad perspective, you have all the answers. You just have to trust yourself. That's, I think, the key. You know the direction that you want to go in. You know the steps that you need to take to get there. But you're going to think that you don't have an answer that you already have because you don't want to take the obvious action that will continue to accelerate your path. So that's why you see people hopping from business model to business model, or from mechanism to mechanism. Like, you can spend eternity just like planning and sharpening your sword and trying to figure out everything that you're going to need to be equipped for your journey. You can stay on the ground looking at the mountain thinking, oh, like once I get this next thing, I'll be equipped to climb it. That doesn't happen. No. You just have to keep climbing and trust yourself enough to continue to figure things out on the fly. Like, you've gotten yourself here. If you're watching this, you're still alive. That means you haven't taken a bad enough decision that has killed you, which means that you can continue to progress without it means you are capable of continuing to progress. So I think that's the key. And I know that's really broad, but that's it, bro. It's just following that voice in your head that just knows the answer somehow. If you follow that more, it leads you in the right direction. And then, like I said, this all feels like it happened almost on accident. Yes, I had a direction. I knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, but ending up in this exact position. I had no idea how that was going to happen, but because I just kept taking the action that felt right to me, eventually I ended up here.
If you are at the end of this episode, clearly you're here for a reason. You don't fit the category number 2. You're here for breaking through, and you know you have that desire in you to become more than what you are right now. And I've had stages in my life, and so have you, and so has everybody else in this stage, where they've been working for so long and they haven't seen the result face value. We're so used to instant gratification, right? So I think that understanding that and being aware of that is going to be a crucial piece to understanding that things sometimes do take longer than what we think. And maybe something that you're working towards right now won't be the end all be all moneymaker goal that you're going to have. But that was my last spiel. I wanted to elaborate more on that because I believe it was a good point. But
yeah, it almost always works out that way, where it takes a bit longer than you expected, but it probably happens. Or you're fucked and you're probably cooked, and put the fries in the bag, bro.
Somebody has to cook the burgers, dumbass.
But if you're watching this, that's probably not you. Keep fucking going and you're going to be fine.
Exactly. Ben, I appreciate you having you on, bro.
Thank you, brother.
2 for 2 with crispy dabs. Where can the people find you if they don't know you yet?
Ben H. Bader on all streaming platforms, Spotify. No, I'm kidding. Imagine if I was a rapper. But yeah, Ben H. Bader on all platforms. Check out my YouTube. My newsletter is pretty cool. I write a lot of emails. So thank you for having me on, bro.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having you on. As always, guys, don't be motivated. Stay disciplined. And I'll see y'all in the next video.
Bars. Fire.